Welcome everybody to another Blazblue tutorial slash guide, okay? This is going to be targeted towards the beginners coming into the game that are new to the game. I've been having more and more new players come to me saying, alright, what are the game mechanics? What is this game mechanic? What does Exceed Excel do? What does Active Flow do? What is a counter assault? How do I get this person off me? All those questions, and I'm more than happy to make a video answering most of those questions, okay? Now in this video, I'm going to be going over all the essential game mechanics that I think a beginner should definitely know when learning the game, okay? There is a Blazblue tutorial inside of the game itself, kind of explaining all the game mechanics and the essentials similar to this video, but I do think there is a difference between in-game tutorials and having somebody make a video explaining where the game mechanics are applicable, what they actually do, detailed information and such, and so on and so forth. Now, I didn't go over everything the game has to offer, but I did go over all the essential game mechanics that you will be needing to learn the game, or at least will help you learn the game as well. Being more knowledgeable is not exactly a bad thing about the game, you know what I mean? So, without further ado, here are all the game mechanics that you guys will be learning. There's a lot of information here, so be ready for this. Hopefully this video will help you guys out. Enjoy the video, guys. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the lab, the place where I'm going to be teaching you all the game mechanics that you originally clicked the video for. We're going to be learning a lot, so please sit back, enjoy the ride, and hopefully you can use this video as a resource so you guys can learn the game mechanics fluently. The first thing before we go into the game mechanics is you have to look at the HUD. Let's take a look at everything that's on the HUD so we can know what we're going to be dealing with. Now we're going to go into this raw, no special editing, nothing of the sort. We're just going to go into this plain as day. I'm going to be going over this like I was actually in the room with you. So no special editing, just raw, just like that. There might be some cuts, but for the most part, we're going to be going into this in the long haul. The first thing you need to look at is, of course, the meter gauge. The meter gauge is very important because without meter, you won't be able to execute distortions, counter assaults, crush triggers, astrals, anything of the sorts. If you guys don't know what those are, don't worry, we'll be going over all those. The second thing you need to look at is, of course, the burst icon. Now, the burst icon is very, very important because without it, you won't be able to execute bursts or overdrive or anything like that. Now, the reason you have to be paying attention to this is because once you exhaust your burst gauge, it tells you wow, I have it set to infinite. My bad. So once it exhausts your actual burst, first of all, it tells you how much you have left in your overdrive gauge. So, hold on, I didn't refill it there. So I had refilled. Let's put it back to default. Once you activate your overdrive, then it tells you how much longer you have in your overdrive state. Once you exhaust it, it tells you how much it has left for it to refill. Now, if you use a overdrive, it starts off at 3, and then once it gets to 10, you can use the overdrive once more. However, if you use your overdrive, I'm sorry, not your overdrive. However, if you use your burst instead of your overdrive, it actually starts at 0. Let me give you an example here. Continuously attack. You see how it starts at 0 right there. So no matter what, if you use your burst, it starts off at 0 and has to climb all the way to 10. If you use your overdrive, however, then it actually gives you 3 seconds or three burst points, as I like to call them sometimes. Sorry, I have to do this again. So, yes. Show you just another example right here. Of course, it's all the way at 3 instead of 0. The next thing is the barrier gauge, and you have to keep looking at your barrier gauge because there is a mechanic in the game we're going to be going over called barrier blocking, and if you barrier block too much, you can actually run out of your barrier gauge, and once you run out your barrier gauge, you're going to run into some problems. Next up is your health gauge, and of course everybody knows your health gauge. If it reaches 0, you lose the round, and that's what you don't want. You want that to stay as full as possible, of course. Last but not least, you have to be taking a look at the round counter, the round time, The round time is very important because you can run into timeouts, and whoever has the fullest health bar wins the round as soon as that counter hits 0. Now, it's at infinite right now because we're in training lab, but in a real match, it's set to 99 seconds, I believe. One more thing I forgot to mention is the indication that you actually have active flow on hand. Now, before there was really no indicator unless you used up your burst, and there was an indicator on the burst icon, but now they gave you an even bigger indicator, having to use the whole HUD as a indicator that you have active flow. Your whole portrait glows purple as soon as you have active flow, And we'll go over active flow later on, but I just thought that I would mention that to view on the HUD as well. Now that you guys know how to view the HUD, we can actually get into the game mechanics. Let's get right into it. The first thing I want to talk about is the burst and overdrive mechanics, seeming that they're one of the most important game mechanics in the whole game. They can make or break whether you win or lose. So let's talk about burst first, okay? In this game, you have the ability to break out of a combo once, as long as you have that burst gauge right underneath your portrait all the way filled up. Now, it's similar to Killer Instinct, where you can break combos, of course, but unlike in Killer Instinct has multiple opportunities and a rule set for you to break combos, which means that if your opponent in Killer Instinct, if your opponent's doing a heavy, then you have to break it with a heavy combo breaker. In this game, there's no rule set, no nothing, but you can only burst out of combos normally once a round. But if you can get your burst back or your burst icon fills up in that round, then you can definitely use it a second time. As long as you have that burst gauge filled up all the way, you can use a burst and break out of a combo at any given moment. And unlike Killer Instinct, you can only press, it's just a button press. Let me showcase it off right here. Let's set the training dummy to continuously attack. As soon as he hits me, I'm going to burst out. Right there. And that's how you burst out of combos. It's by pressing A, B, C, and D. All right. On the other side to that coin is the overdrive. And the overdrive, so how burst works, that you have to get hit for burst to activate. Overdrive activates either by itself or while you're blocking. Doesn't matter. You cannot activate overdrive while you're getting hit, unfortunately. That would be really, really good. But for the most part, you can only activate while just in regular neutral or while you're blocking. It's okay. And when you go into overdrive, then you actually have invincibility frames, which means that they cannot hit you on the startup of this move. That means that there's no hitboxes there, which means that they can't hit you at all. That's what invincibility frames are. So let me set the training dummy to continuously attack again. And instead, I'm going to run up and do overdrive. And you're going to see Jin's sword completely pass Ragna. Oh, let me see. There it is. And you can punish startups of certain moves. Anyways, that's how overdrive works. It has invincibility frames on startups, so people use it defensively to punish certain moves that have recovery, like Jin's slash or his 5C. Okay? So, yeah, that's overdrive right there. Now, there's a huge debate over whether to use overdrive over bursts or burst over overdrive. And it all depends on the situation that you're in. And that comes with experience, whether to burst at that situation or overdrive in the situation, save it for burst or save it for overdrive. Most of the time, people save it for overdrive because they have access to Exceed Excel, which is basically a free invincible move. And but yeah, it just depends on the situation. Now we're on the topic. Let's talk about Exceed Excel. It's another game mechanic. Exceed Excel is a cinematic move, kind of like a super. You can only have access to it while you're in overdrive. So you press A, B, C, and D to activate overdrive, and you press the exact same buttons while you're in overdrive to activate Exceed Excel. And normally, Exceed Excels at their regular damage, they do 2,000 damage or 2K. Depends on the Exceed Excel. Sometimes they do 2,200. Sometimes they do 21, 2,000, regular 2,000. You know, it all depends on the Exceed Excels of your specific character. Now, your Exceed Excels can do up to 4,000 damage, 4K damage, depending if you have active flow or not. Okay, we'll get into that after Exceed Excel. But for the most part, Exceed Excel in this game is completely, it used to be safe when they block, if they do block Exceed Excel. So let's have the computer block. So if you go like this and you activate Exceed Excel, it used to be as in it was safe, which means that it was a get out of jail free card. You can activate overdrive and go for Exceed Excel, and that's basically a get out of jail free card out of pressure. Okay. Now, in this game, in this patch, recently they patched it up and nerfed it. Exceed Excels are now -9, which means that Ragna has 9 frames to recover from that move, which means that Jin can do any move that starts up in 9 frames and punish Ragna completely, because Ragna cannot block because he's still recovering from that Exceed Excel. It's unsafe, and It's still really good, of course, because it's still invincible on startup, which means that they cannot do anything. Or it's the same thing as overdrive. Ragnar's hitbox disappears, and you can't hit him at all because he's invincible during the startup of the Exceed Excel. Okay. Now that you guys learned about Exceed Excel, let's talk about Active Flow, okay? Active Flow is a new mechanic that they introduced in Central Fiction, and what it is, it's a state that you enter where you can do more damage, and your Exceed Excel can actually do more damage as well. It goes from 2k damage to 4k damage as long as you have Active Flow. Now, how do you know you have Active Flow? Like we talked about earlier, you look at your portrait. If your portrait starts to turn purple like this, that means you have Active Flow. And the way to get Active Flow in this game is by being aggressive in this game. Pushing forward, pressuring the enemy. Actually, not just that, but also blocking the enemy gets you Active Flow as well. And there's other means as well as to getting Active Flow. But for the most part, as soon as you get it, you start to glow purple, or your portrait starts to glow purple, okay? It's a very interesting mechanic nonetheless. It promotes aggressive gameplay and also very good gameplay. As long as you have Active Flow, of course, you'll be able to do a lot of damage. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Do a lot of damage. The next mechanic is barrier blocking. Now, barrier blocking is executed by guarding by pressing back or down back and pressing A and B. Or you can do A, B, C. As long as you press A and B, you're totally fine, okay? So, barrier blocking, what's the usage of that for? Now, normally when you block in this game, you stay right in front of the character that's pressuring you. With barrier blocking, as while they're pressuring, they actually get pushed back farther, reducing their pressure opportunities. Okay, so for example, let's have Jin here, barrier block. As you can see, it pushes us a lot farther away. Okay. Yeah, and then also with barrier blocking, there are unblockables in this game. Such as air unblockables. There are certain moves that you cannot block in the air, but when you barrier block, those moves become blockable. Okay, so for example, like 5B, which is just this right here. Let's actually showcase this real quick, okay? So if the opponent is jumping and they're not blocking, they're blocking everything, which means that they can block. There are certain moves in this game that they cannot block, like 5B. As you can see, he cannot block that in the air. But if he barrier blocks, he can block it. It consumes barrier gauge, but you can block air unblockable moves with barrier. Okay? That's another thing as well. The next game mechanic is Crush Trigger. Okay? If you guys don't know what that is, it consumes 25 meter, and it's done by pressing A and B. Okay? What this move essentially does is completely crushes your opponent's block. Okay, so let's say that your opponent, I set the dummy to guard. Let's say that the opponent is blocking like crazy, blocking all the pressure that you have going on. But if you execute a Crush Trigger and somewhere along there, I'm sorry, wrong buttons, A and B. Just like that, it completely blocks them, and they become they go into a state where you can hit them. Now, it did get nerfed in Central Fiction. Before, in previous games, you can do a Crush Trigger and run up and do a combo. It was very, very good. In this game, it depends on how long you hold the Crush Trigger, where they stay in that state, that unblockable state, okay? So if you just tap it, then you don't really have anything. You don't really have a combo mid-screen. You can probably do it in the corner, in the corner, yeah, in the corner, you can definitely get a combo. But in the mid screen, you probably need to hold it. The more you hold it, the more likely you get a combo. Okay? You hold it all the way, you get a free combo. But if you tap it, you don't get a combo. So that's how Crush Trigger works in this game. Okay? It's very sneaky. It's a very versatile move. It's not the best, of course, but it also is safe on block, which means that if they are blocking everything, and you ended up with Crush Trigger, you're actually safe. Now, Crush Trigger is blockable as long as you barrier it. So if they barrier a Crush Trigger, they can block it, just like that. However, if they do block a Crush Trigger, okay, if they block this, depending on how long you hold it, they can take massive amounts of barrier damage. As you look at the barrier damage with Jin. Massive. Now, if you just tap it, it's not as much, but if you hold it, it's massive damage to their barrier. So that can be good in itself. The next mechanic in the game is rapid canceling. Rapid canceling is the ability to cancel any move in the move list. There are certain moves that you cannot rapid cancel, and that's character specific. For the most part, I think Ragna can cancel literally anything, okay? And it's done by executing A, B, and C at the exact same time as you're executing a move. And it does cost 50 meters, so it is quite expensive, okay? So let's see. Let's do a move, and that's it. And that's what rapid canceling is. It's completely cancelable. No recovery whatsoever. It's completely good, okay? You can use this to continue combos and continue pressure, okay? It's a very, very good tool. For example, for pressure, you can just pressure your opponent. And moves where you're normally unsafe, you can make them safe with rapid canceling. Like this one right here, you can just keep going. You can just keep going like that. So it's a very good pressure tool. It's quite an expensive one, but it is very good. And you can also use this to keep going with combos. So for example, you do a combo, and you can just continue a combo with rapid canceling. It's a very good tool. It's a very great game mechanic. And I suggest you practice this game mechanic more than anything else because it's very, very important. The next one up is Counter Assault, and Counter Assault is a defensive move, and like rapid canceling, it's also cost 50 meter, and it's done by executing forward and A and B, okay? It's like an alpha counter if you guys are Street Fighter players. So let's actually set the enemy to continuously attack me. So I'm going to have the opponent continuously attack me, and I'm going to, while I'm blocking, I'm going to press forward and A and B at the exact same time, okay? Here we go. There it is right there. And it costs 50 meter, but it gets the opponent off of you during pressure, so it's a very good defensive tool. The only thing is, if they do bait the counter assault and they block the counter assault, then it's actually unsafe, and they can punish you for it. But overall, I suggest you use it 100%. Most people don't even bait counter assaults. That's maximum high level Blazblue. But for the most part, it's a very good defensive tool to get the opponent off of you. The next mechanic is throws, and throws can be executed by pressing B and C, just like that. And if you press back B and C, you can actually back grab them, just like that. Okay, you can actually combo off of throws in this game. Some characters have an easy time comboing off of throws. Some characters have a harder time comboing off of throws. It all depends on your character. Ragnar does pretty good damage, and he also has a pretty good grab game as well. Most characters average at around 3k in terms of damage off of a grab with a combo, but some do higher damage, some do lower damage than 3k, okay? Some do like 2.6, some do like 3.7. It all depends on the character and where they are on the screen, and whether in the corner or in the mid-screen. So Ragnar does around 3k mid-screen for a simple combo. Yeah, around 3k, there you go. 3k for that combo, that's pretty good. Now you can tech throws in this game by pressing B and C at the same time they do, and that's how you tech throws. Like for example, escape. I'm going to press B and C here, and the computer's also going to press B and C at the same time. Just like that, and that's how you escape combos. And there's a big old gap in between between the two of you when you tech grabs, okay? Just like that. You see that green exclamation mark? As long as that's up there, that means you can tech. Alongside that, there's also purple grabs. And purple grabs essentially are grabs that should not have happened in the first place. That's basically what everyone says. But purple grabs are so when you grab an opponent while they're still in hit stun, that's essentially what it is, okay? So let's see, let's do 5A and let's do a purple grab, just like that. That's a purple grab that could have been prevented. That means the counter turns blue, you get a purple exclamation point. That means that the grab has a longer tech time window than a regular grab. And also the counter turns blue, which means that it's not real, which means that it's completely preventable. If you get hit by a blue combo, that means you missed an opportunity to tech out of the combo, okay? Because I started the combo with a 5A, and normally you can't combo grabs in this game. So it gives you a purple exclamation point and a blue counter saying, hey, he's going to get fake damage or damage that could have been prevented. Please tech out of this grab right now. So that's what purple grabs are. There's a saying in the community where if you do not tech purple grabs, then you have to do 5 push-ups for every purple grab you do not break. So I suck at breaking grabs in general, but so don't feel bad. But for the most part, that's how what purple grabs are. The next is TRMs, or throw counters, which means those are basically untechable grabs. And how you execute these is when you actually just regular grab. This is a regular grab right here. But if the opponent is pressing a button or trying to tech or text a little too early, or it's a text too early, or they're pressing a button while you're grabbing them, then you get a throw counter. Okay, and that means that they cannot tech out of the grab. Let me show you what I mean. I'm just gonna force the counter hit here. You see that big X in on the opponents? That means that they cannot tech at all. That means they either tried to press a button. The Ragna caught the Jhin player off guard, and the Jhin player pressed the button, and Ragna grabbed them out of the startup of that button and got a throw counter. Or the Jhin player tried to tech but did it way too early, which results in a TRM, it's called. I don't know how to emulate a TRM, but it's basically the same result. Throw reject miss, it's called, which means that you cannot tech it at all. Like, look, I'm going to be doing throw escape, which essentially means that whatever happens, he techs the grab. But if he doesn't, if it's a counter hit or TRM or throw counter, they cannot tech at all. Next up, I'm going to be attempting to explain counter hits and fatal counters, okay? So the basic way of explaining a counter hit in this game, okay, is think of Ragna and think of Jhin both doing a move at the exact same time, okay? Normally, the fastest move wins, right? Well, you're correct. Whatever move is fastest and whatever move hits first gets awarded a counter hit, okay? Let's try to emulate this. I'm going to be doing a 5B, which is this right here, and Jhin is going to be doing a 5C. This is Jin's 5C. Now, whichever of the two moves hit first is going to be awarded a counter hit. Normally, if it ties and it trades, the two moves trade, both players get a counter hit. But whoever's move hit first, they get awarded a counter hit. Let's try and do this out. Just like that. I caught the startup of Jin's 5C. Just like that. You see that? He caught me at the startup of my 5B. And then now we traded right there. That's essentially, that's the simplest way I could explain counter hits. Fatal counters are a little bit different, however, other than counter hits, okay? Now that we explained counter hits and how they work, we were demoing the counter hit stuff with 5B, and that's just a regular counter hit right there, which any button can be a counter hit button, okay? There are, however, buttons in this game that have special properties that give you a fatal counter instead of a regular counter hit. Everybody has a fatal counter combo or a fatal counter button. All you have to do is look for it and see what it is, okay? So, for example, instead of catching the opponent with a counter hit 5B, if you catch him with a counter hit 5D, that gives you a fatal counter, which unlocks possibilities that weren't possible before. It gives you higher damaging combos, longer combos, more devastating combos. It can be very devastating if your opponent or you know a very, very good optimal fatal counter combo. Like, for example, with Ragna, there can be some crazy things happening. Stuff like this. Those loops are only possible with fatal counter because it gives you a longer combo and more devastating combo and more high damaging combo. Next up is insta blocking. Now, insta blocking is a very interesting mechanic. It's very advanced, so if you can't do it, don't worry about it. I just want to explain it to you guys to show you guys what it is. Insta blocking is blocking, but instead of blocking it normally, you block it perfectly. So instead of you holding back and just blocking normally, you actually go in rhythm of blocking the opponent's hits. So for example, instead of normal blocking right here, you insta block. So normal blocking, as you can see, oh whoops, I should set up to blocking and everything like that. You see how he's just blocking normally, but if he insta blocks, the opponent starts to flash white, which means that he's perfect blocking. Perfect blocking leads to bigger punishes. So for example, things that were plus, like for example 2C, I think is +1 on block, and all of a sudden, because he perfect blocked it, it becomes punishable, or it becomes minus now, -2 instead of +1. that's the reward for players when they perfect block in this game. Okay, that's in most anime fighting games. If you perfect block or insta block in this case, that's what the technical term is called, insta blocking. It's basically perfect blocking. You get rewarded with a higher, better opportunity to punish, or better frame data than normal. Okay, moves that were plus are now minus, and moves that were minus are even more minus, so they can set up for bigger punishes instead of the average punish. All right, insta blocking is a very advanced technique. It requires a lot of practice. How you do it essentially is you have to time the hits of the moves that your opponent's throwing out, kind of like parrying, like in Third Strike and any game with a parry, but blocking at the same time. Instead of holding forward for parrying, you hold backwards and insta block. It's a very interesting mechanic, a very advanced mechanic. So that's perfect blocking or insta blocking. The last thing I want to talk about was negative penalty. Negative penalty is a system in this game that they implemented to prevent too much zoning, too much runaway, too much cowardice, essentially. Okay, they want to promote more rushdown heavy playstyle, so they implemented this system, which means that if you backdash too much, or if you air backdash too much, walk backwards too much, basically just run away in general instead of fighting, you start to get a negative warning. And the more you stay back, you get into the negative penalty. This is the danger zone. The danger zone is basically you run out of a barrier, which means that you cannot barrier. Just like I'm trying to barrier, I can't barrier. And you're in danger state, which means everything that's coming to you is going to hurt a lot. You take more damage than normal. And you're in the state until your barrier gauge fills back up all the way. So if you run away too much, you start to go into danger state, and then you get negative penalty afterwards, okay? Negative warning. Then you go into danger zone, and you start to glow red. Everything that will hit you is going to hurt a lot. Everything is unscaled damage. It's going to hurt a lot. So essentially, you do not want to be in the state. You don't. When you run out of barrier in general, you go into the state. So you want to be very careful when backdashing and all that stuff, because that is a very, very bad way of going about playing this game. And that's pretty much all the game mechanics that I wanted to cover today. Of course, you can have more information by accessing the tutorial of the game, but I felt like doing a video like this was a little bit better because a lot of people can actually get somebody that's a real person to tell you what these game mechanics are. Of course, you can always refer back to the tutorial and try to review with that tutorial, but for the most part, I'm here to help you guys out, understand these mechanics more. If there's anything that you guys are still not understanding, feel free to hit me up on Twitter or in the comment section below. I'll try my best to answer it in another video. But for the most part, those are all the game mechanics that I wanted you guys to learn about. Hopefully this will help you guys out in the long run. Well, there you have it. Thanks for watching the video, guys, and hopefully you guys enjoyed it and took something from it. That's my whole goal here, is to inform more of the beginner Blazblue players so they can have a better time learning the game. Of course, it's not easy learning the game, so I wish you good luck on your travels and on your adventure on learning the game if you guys do decide to pick up the game. Anyways, guys, I'm out of here. I'm signing off. Follow me on Twitter if you guys would like. Subscribe to the channel for more Blazblue content. I'm going to be bringing more, not just beginner stuff, but intermediate stuff as well. Let me know what you guys want to learn and want to know more about. I'll try my best to inform you guys and have you guys learn about Blazblue. So, anyways, guys, take it easy, everybody. Have a good rest of your day. We'll see you next time.